Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, coming to you live from Manhattan. I hope wherever you guys are that you are having fantastic Tuesdays. I have been waiting to go live with Outkick the Show today till the ruling came down, giving us some sense for what was going to happen in the AT&T Time Warner case. I got a lot to react to with Donald Trump, with North Korea, with Dennis Rodman. The Lakers are now the favorite to get LeBron James. Many different details, many different stories to chase. I don't know how many of you are as much of media nerds as I am, but this AT&T Time Warner story is seismic, massive, generational in its potential impact. So we got a lot to get to. Before I get there, let me tell you, right now you need to make a smart decision. Go to sportsbookreview.com and make sure if you're going to be gambling on the U.S. Open. Remember, we're live on Thursday and Friday from Shinnecock Hills doing the radio show from out there. I am in New York City now. That's why I'm here. And I got to tell you, to get the best possible odds anywhere you go, make sure that you check all the futures odds and make sure that the golfers you're betting on, you get the best numbers. Go to sportsbookreview.com. Also, my friend, I got to tell you, my buddy Ryan Kelly, make sure that you take advantage of your home equity. If you got a home right now and you're starting to make a bundle, I'm telling you right now that this is going to be the time to take advantage of your home equity. If you have credit card debt, wipe it out in one fell swoop, get a new mortgage, get your financial house in order. If you haven't been buying Twitter stock, if you haven't been buying WWE stock, you should have. I've been on a roll here. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com. Get your credit card debt wiped out, and you will be well on your way to getting your financial house in order. All right, let's get right into the details. Big win in an antitrust case that lasted 6 weeks. AT&T has been fighting the United States government to be able to buy Time Warner. There was a argument from the Department of Justice that this violated antitrust law. 6-week trial in Washington, D.C. The judge has released a scathingly favorable ruling on behalf of AT&T to be allowed to purchase Time Warner. This is a big deal. If you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, okay, why do I care about this? First of all, AT&T is about to become massive, a $300 billion company. AT&T, remember, owns DirecTV. They will now own Turner. They'll own TBS. They will own all of the assets of Time Warner, HBO. I mean, this is big for AT&T and Time Warner, but what it also does is it accelerates the cycle to figure out who is going to be able to compete. They also own CNN, well said. I mean, a massive amount of different media properties. It also accelerates the movement here to try to figure out who is going to be left standing in this new media environment as everybody races to compete with Netflix. There's a race to try to get as big as you can possibly get. The immediate outcome of this ruling in terms of what it's going to mean right now is that we have got a big time race going on between AT&T and Time Warner and everybody else, but in particular, the Fox assets. If you are a Disney shareholder, Disney is down $2. If you are a Comcast shareholder, Disney is down in a big way. Why is that happening? That is happening because all of this is a massive storyline in terms of the overall impact. Fox is up 5%. The expectation is that everybody out there is going to have to bid a lot more money to get the Fox assets. Rupert Murdoch is sitting in a really pretty position now because the reason supposedly that he picked Disney over Comcast, even though Comcast had bid more, was because, and I think this is fascinating, was because there was a belief out there. There was a belief that this would potentially have antitrust issues. And man, I got to tell you, I don't know how this thing is going to happen, how this thing is going to break out, but I know that Rupert Murdoch is going to get a lot more money, and this could have long-range implications, obviously, for years to come. Disney stock is down several dollars. Comcast stock down, Fox up 5% on the news, expecting a bidding war. Okay, and that could happen as soon as this afternoon because this was such a clear-cut win for AT&T. I got to tell you in general, let's break this down even further. What is going to happen? I suspect that by tomorrow, Comcast is going to announce that they're going to offer around $60 billion. That's billion with a B, for all of the Fox assets that Disney had previously agreed to buy for $52 billion. Now, also, you have to factor in Disney's was an all-stock transaction. Given the fact that Disney stock has come down about 10% since this initial offer was made, that offer is not even worth as much. I got to tell you, I don't know exactly what is going to happen, but this is going to be revolutionary in terms of its impact in the world of media. Everybody's trying to get big, and they're trying to get big fast, and they're trying to compete with Netflix. The underlying reason why Disney wants to buy all these Fox assets is so they can create their own streaming service, which we'll call Disney Flix. And man, I think it is going to be incredibly fascinating to see what's going to happen. All right, I rarely do this, but I'm going to answer your questions. For anybody out there that has questions right now live on Facebook or Periscope about the impact of this ruling, what is your feedback? Keep in mind, and we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but right now, as an exclusive media company, Netflix is the biggest company in the world. Netflix is bigger than Disney. They are bigger than Comcast. They are bigger than Time Warner. They are bigger than everybody else out there. So this is a big story in terms of everything surrounding it. AT&T shareholders win. Well, the stock is down a little bit because there's concern that they are overpaying, but that happens a lot of times when big mergers are announced. So I don't think that is a massive story. Hulu is jointly owned by a bunch of different media companies. How is Netflix able to grow so fast? Well, one thing is the stock market is buying into the fact that Netflix is going to be able to sign up as many people as they possibly can. They're at 126 million subscribers right now. Who does my gut say wins? It's a great question. Well, I don't know. I think it's 50-50 between Comcast and Disney at this point. I think what it will boil down to is how much higher is either company willing to go. If Disney doesn't come back in and re-up with all of the dollars that they are willing to pay, then I don't think it is likely that Disney is going to be able to get the money, get this buy, because it's ultimately going to come down to money. So I think that Disney's going to have to come back in potentially by tomorrow, potentially by the end of the week, and sweeten its offer, which is going to drive down Disney stock that much more, which means Disney's going to have to pay cash. And the question is, who values these assets more? Remember, even if Comcast doesn't get the assets, both of these companies are now in sort of an interesting game theory model where they want to drive up. If you don't win, right? If you don't win in quotation marks, you want to make the price that your competitor has to pay so significant that they end up having to pay too much in order to take on this property, and that it gives you greater opportunity in the future, because these companies have spent so much money to have to come in and buy the assets. So if you are Comcast or you're Disney, the best case scenario is win the assets, buy them. The overall impact, I think, on a larger scale is you want to drive up the cost as high as possible and then step out. It's like if you're bidding in a war at auction and you're interested in multiple let's say, pieces of artwork, and you know that everybody only has a fungible amount of cash. You want to drive up the cost for one piece of art and then step out right before you get left holding the bag on a deal that you can't afford. So I think this is seismic. Somebody said a good question. What's the sports impact of this deal? I think a couple of fronts. One, remember that Time Warner has a lot of sports assets. Let's step back now and think about what AT&T would own. AT&T owns DirecTV, which has the NFL Sunday Ticket. From a sports perspective, Time Warner and Turner air the NBA, they air the NCAA tournament, and they air some of Major League Baseball. If I am a sports fan, what I would anticipate coming out of this ruling is AT&T is now a $300 billion company. They are potentially able to go out and make a real run at the NFL in 2021, Monday Night Football 2022, all of those aspects. They can blow CBS, for instance, out of the water if CBS doesn't end up getting acquired by somebody else. So to me, from a sports impact level, this also could end up impacting the SEC, because the SEC's deal with CBS is up soon, relatively soon, in the next few years. I think 2023 is the last year of the CBS deal. It's insanely undervalued. There will be a lot of bidders sitting around out there. I think this also will make Amazon, Apple, and Netflix all kind of give pause and look at this Fox asset and think, does this make sense potentially for us? But what is Turner and TBS going to do in general? I think there's a lot of questions about what could end up happening here in terms of this. Good question. Any impact on the impending ACC network? That's a massive story. The ACC network is launching at a rough time. I think this is going to give a lot of interest. The other thing is, remember HBO. Remember, HBO has gone to HBO Now. HBO a la carte exists. Is there an argument that AT&T now could put together its own streaming service with all of the content that it will own and create its own version of Netflix as well, with HBO as the linchpin? Instead of just having HBO, is it possible they could pair together many of these other assets that they're now buying and offer their own a la carte option, which includes things other than Netflix? It also raises the question, I've been asking this question for a long time, does this make the DirecTV NFL Sunday Ticket potentially more available on an a la carte basis as well? I am utterly fascinated by this. And again, some of you are big fans of media, business, and how this is going to impact our sports rights. I don't know what the overall long-range impact is going to be. Somebody said, who wins in terms of sports? I don't know. I think it gets into who's going to bid big. And the next big story in the world of sports, which will be up before long, is Monday Night Football. Will ESPN be able to afford to pay? Right now they pay $2 billion a year for Monday Night Football. Will ESPN be able to go back to the table and pay a big dollar figure for Monday Night Football? Will Turner or TBS, TNT or TBS, swoop in and try and steal away Monday Night Football? Could FS1? There are so many different questions about all of these rulings. But to me, I've been saying this for a long time, Monday Night Football is going to tell us a lot. When that deal is up in 2021, that will give us a really good indication how many people are interested in bidding. Will Amazon come in? Will Netflix come in? Will Apple? Will there be any of these big tech movers, Facebook? Or will you have what I think it's fair to say would likely be an AT&T versus Disney ESPN battle for Monday Night Football, with potentially Fox off there on the side? Because remember, all the money that Fox is going to make off of the sale of these assets, it could theoretically roll back in to getting as many live sports rights as they possibly can afford, which is what we've seen with WWE, Thursday Night Football on Fox. I think that there is a lot of long-term impact here in terms of what is going to end up happening. All right, how much is Monday Night Football worth? Well, right now on the market, Disney is paying $2 billion a year. Disney ESPN is paying $2 billion a year for Monday Night Football. Putting that into context, CBS pays $55 million a year for the SEC game of the week. If you want to think about how undervalued the SEC game of the week is, I would say right now in the world of football, the most overvalued property is Monday Night Football at $2 billion a year. All right. The most undervalued property is the SEC on CBS at $55 million a year. The question is, valuation is all a function of market. I can think that something is way overvalued in terms of what money you can produce from it. But if somebody else out there who has more money decides to pay more for it, then my valuation is out of whack. I don't think there's any way that Disney/ESPN is making money on a $2 billion a year Monday Night Football package. But this is the question for you guys. Can you imagine ESPN being a viable entity in a modern era if they don't have any NFL rights or games at all? It's hard for me to believe, and I'm not sure ESPN can afford it, but it's hard for me to believe that ESPN can exist as the worldwide leader in sports if they can't afford to actually go out and get the overall substantive rights like they have with the NFL. So Monday Night Football is a declining sports franchise. I think it's fair to say the NFL is not happy with Disney, which is why Disney has gotten such poor games already. But I think it's definitely a fair question to ask. Can you get ESPN? Can they insist on being covered and carried if all they have is the NBA and some college sports? Now, I think that ESPN could recalibrate and redistribute those monies that they spend on Monday Night Football and potentially go get, keep up with the Big Ten. The problem ESPN's got is they've overpaid for the NBA, and that, I think, is going to be a major issue for them in the years ahead. But could they go get the NHL? Maybe. Could they go get the SEC Game of the Week and try to replace Monday Night Football with the SEC Game of the Week? Maybe. But I think ESPN's in for a real challenge if they cannot keep Monday Night Football. Again, if you're just tuning in, you're just pulling up, I said we were going to go late today because I wanted to talk about the major decision that was scheduled to come down. The AT&T Time Warner merger has been okayed by the federal judge who set and heard a 6-week antitrust trial. As a result, lots of media stocks are up, some are down. Disney and Comcast stock is down substantially in the immediate after hours. There's a fear that there's going to be a battle royale now developing, that somebody will end up overpaying for the rights to get all these Fox assets that Rupert Murdoch is selling. Fox stock has surged 5% up. I agree with the judge, by the way. Not a lot of people have been out there. I disagreed with the Donald Trump Justice Department. I thought this merger should be allowed. I thought there was no doubt at all that it made total sense to allow this merger. I think the judge got it right. If you study antitrust law, if you paid attention to this trial, I don't agree with the Department of Justice saying that this had anti-competitive impacts. And this is the result that I expected. I didn't know if the judge would be as forthright and direct as he was, basically saying, don't try to get a stay of this ruling. He encouraged the parties not to appeal. The question will be, how will the Department of Justice respond to this beatdown? And then, how are all these other companies that are interested in their own mergers going to respond as well? So this is a major story that I think will impact the world of media and certainly sports in the years ahead beyond a shadow of a doubt. All right, so that is that story. Any other additional questions from you guys about the AT&T Time Warner merger? Because then I'm going to pivot and talk about Rodman, Trump, Dennis Rodman in North Korea, Donald Trump, Kim Jong Un, and what I saw from the North Korea agreement. I don't know why this guy keeps asking if I think I can do Major League Baseball play-by-play. I'm going to block him. Yes, I think I could do play-by-play of anything. I don't think it would be very enjoyable. No, I don't think ESPN Plus is profitable. Which stocks would I buy right now? I've been telling you guys for a long time to buy WWE and Twitter. Twitter stock surged again today. I think there is a lot of interest in both of those companies. I'm not buying any stock right now that I don't already own. I own Netflix, I own Activision, I own Take-Two video game companies, and I own WWE and Twitter, and all those stocks have been doing very well, and I've been in them for years. So I tell you guys the exact same advice that I give myself, which is make that decision. People, I don't have any idea what the politics of the judge are. I'm a free markets guy. And so I thought that the decision by the Trump Justice Department was actually anti-free markets. So I believe in general that companies should have the right to make decisions that benefit companies, and that the government should be laissez-faire and not get involved in individual corporate decisions on a regular basis. I was in favor of this merger being okayed, and I think that made that the judge ruling got the right decision. I think it's a moderate, realistic, capitalistic-based judgment from this judge. I thought the Trump Justice Department deciding to try to block this merger didn't make sense to do it at all. No, I have not sold my Twitter. I still have it. Yes, I've. So, any other questions? How does this? What is the impact of the average sports fan? I don't think this is a fascinating larger structural issue. I think what's happening is you are seeing the disruption of the existing cable sports rights business. And the question we have in terms of its impact on the realm of sports is this going to translate into more of a pay-per-view sort of monthly subscription model, or is everybody going to continue to be able to make decisions and just go out and buy one overall package to get all the sports rights? I think that's the question that is out there that is unclear. ESPN has signed its college football rights deals for the most part for years and years ahead. The Big Ten is up, I believe, in 5 years. The SEC is up in about 4 years with CBS. Otherwise, everything else is set in place. A la carte content in general, I would agree, hurts ESPN because ESPN's business model is predicated on the cable bundle, and the cable bundle is fraying. This is a big part of my book that'll be out in September. Republicans buy sneakers too. Not running for the Senate. All right, bets for the Open. We'll have a lot of bets for the Open. Again, I'll be live at the U.S. Open out in Shinnecock Hills on Thursday and Friday. Okay, let's pivot and let's talk for a few minutes about Dennis Rodman, Donald Trump, Kim Jong Un, and what happened. Last good question. Any value in Fox stock now that the ruling is out? That gets into how much of a battle do you think we're going to see? To me, that's the biggest outcome immediately of this story. How much of a battle are we going to see between Disney and Comcast for Fox? If you think both of these companies are going to go balls to the wall and go back and forth with multiple bidding opportunities for these Fox assets, then yes, I think there's a good chance that there is still value in Fox. Maybe 10% on the upside on the Fox stock. But that's a wager on both companies going back and forth and continuing to contest to try to buy this stock. The time to buy Fox stock was, frankly, about 6 months ago, or to go ahead and sort of make a play on what you thought this ruling was going to be and gamble that it was going to go in your favor and try to take advantage of that. So I think that this, again, the Fox battle that is going to take place now for Disney and Comcast is going to be utterly one of the greatest stories that we've seen in modern media when it comes to companies trying to grab assets. All right. Dennis Rodman was on CNN yesterday. One of the most incredible interviews I have ever seen. As I said on the show this morning, and by the way, they gave me Seacrest's radio show, old radio booth. It's amazing. Right here, I got to come up to Manhattan and do the show more often. Most amazing studio I have seen in a long time. Great views out in Manhattan and Tribeca. Seacrest evidently has his own studio now up where he does the Kelly Ripa show in a different part of New York. That's when you're big time, when you got him building different studios for you on the same island. He's now got multiple studios. We'll be live from Manhattan tomorrow breaking down this ruling on the show as well. But it was it's a fantastic studio. But when you look at this Dennis Rodman ruling and Dennis Rodman on CNN, I find it improbable. If you had told me in 1998 that the most influential athlete of all time, when it came to the overall impact of his legacy in the world of geopolitical tensions, in the world of global politics, was going to end up being Kim Jong Un, I would have told you that you were insane. I would have told you that you were insane. And I'm going to get to Rodman here in a minute, but I want to tell you off the jump. I've been one of the few people who's been saying, I think the way that people are looking at the United States and North Korea is wrong. I think that what needs to happen is you need to analyze the overall relationship between Donald Trump and Kim Jong Un. And I think there's an element, like every president has strengths and flaws. I think that Donald Trump's strength is he's supremely confident, and I think a lot of things he's right about in a general sense. For instance, I think he's right that corporate tax rates were too high. I think that was the right decision. I think he's right about the crazy political correctness era of America. I think he's right about that. I think sometimes his implementation is not as accurate as you would hope, and that Twitter is oftentimes his worst enemy because it allows you a window directly into every thought that he is having. I've said before, can you imagine if we'd seen Richard Nixon or Abraham Lincoln or George Washington or anybody who is a president giving you their unfiltered thoughts in real time on Twitter? I think what Trump is doing is not traditional, but I think the way that he is venting is very traditional. And what I mean by that is if you read history and you get inside of all these meetings that take place in the White House, you regularly see every president losing his mind over decisions that people have made in his administration, over judges, over subordinates, over the media and the way they treat him. The way Trump reacts, while people want to claim is abnormal, it's not abnormal. He's just doing it in public. So whereas in the past, Bill Clinton would have raged and lost his temper sometimes at the way that he believed the media treated him, he didn't grab his phone and decide to send that window into his soul out to the entire world. Trump is kind of unvarnished in the way that he shares his opinions on a regular basis. And so what I think is interesting about this is the way that typical strongman leaders make decisions is not based on larger societal trends or your analysis of geopolitical trends and traditions. It's based on interpersonal relationships. Most of the world has these autocratic strongman rulers who are used to power, and the only language they really speak is power. And I think there is an argument to be made that in doing as much construction as he has over the years, Donald Trump has gotten used to dealing with all these different kind of feudal dictators in order to make things happen. So if you're going to build a building in New York City, can you imagine all the red tape that has to take place? Trump, I think, has gotten used to saying, who's the guy who makes the decision? Get me on the phone with him. Let's get a deal done. We're not going to deal with all this bureaucratic BS, okay? And so I think that it's possible that Trump is making a brilliant strategic ploy here in going straight to Kim Jong Un. And I think if you look at everything that Trump is saying right now, it's about flattery. He went out and said that he thought Kim Jong Un was a great leader, that very few people, maybe 1 in 10,000, could take over a leadership position like he did at the age of 26 and manage to rule a country. Trump, I think, sees in Kim Jong Un a younger version of himself. Now, that may sound crazy, but I think that's Donald Trump's game plan to try to get Kim Jong Un to do things that are beneficial for his country. And I think what you're seeing happen is Donald Trump is trying to seduce Kim Jong Un with the idea that the way to international prosperity is by opening up his country to markets and development and condos and buildings and everything else, and not by trying to make the decision to get nuclear weapons and isolate his hermetic kingdom. So, in many respects, when you strip away all the language and all the artifice and all your personal opinions for what Donald Trump is doing, ultimately this is diplomacy predicated on the idea that he can sell directly to Kim Jong Un the idea to open up your kingdom. As he's saying, basically, hey, you're directly between China and South Korea. You've got incredibly valuable real estate. You've got beautiful beaches. Why don't you allow the economic commerce of your country to be unlocked? And if he does so, that he's then going to burnish Kim Jong Un as a great leader in his country, and that the people in his republic will benefit in the process. So, while there's lots of people out there who have a living, or making a living based on analyzing North Korea and based on analyzing all the politics and everything else, what you really have to understand is Trump is cutting through all the bureaucracy and going direct to Kim Jong Un and trying to make this work based on the strength of personal relationships. Trump is a guy who believes in personal relationships. You're either on his team or you're not on his team. And if you're on his team, he believes that you and he can succeed. So I think what he's doing is effectively trying to argue, hey, Kim Jong Un, go out and look at what capitalism can offer to the world. And I thought this was significant. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Couple of things. One, Trump showed off his Cadillac, I think it was, like the car that he has for Kim Jong Un. Remember, there's hardly any airplanes that even work in North Korea. And we've got this car that Donald Trump is riding in that Kim Jong Un is blown away by. Second, did you notice that Kim Jong Un went out and took a tour of Singapore? The Singapore situation in general, the beast, his limo, yes. But getting Kim Jong Un out of North Korea and having him go around and see all the dynamic things that other countries have, it's impossible to go out in a major metropolitan area. It's impossible for some autocratic ruler to not come to New York City and be blown away by what happens when commerce is allowed to function and the rule of law governs. And I think if you can get the people of North Korea out of North Korea and able to see the world as a whole, that is Donald Trump's plan, that he is trying to seduce Kim Jong Un with the promise of great wealth, riches, development, and acclaim for generations that would follow if North Korea was able to bring, if their leader was able to bring a better lifestyle to his people. So in that respect, I really like what Kim Jong Un is starting and being able to accomplish here. I think it is mind-blowing. And if I were Trump on top of this, what I would try to do is he needs to get Kim Jong Un to visit America All right? He needs to get Kim Jong Un to visit America, and he needs to let him tour the entire country and force the North Korean media to follow Kim Jong Un as he covers the country. And then it's impossible from that point forward to argue that the United States is filled with despotic people who want to destroy the country of North Korea. What I would do is I would bring Kim Jong Un over during the NBA. This guy's a big NBA fan. I would take him to all the NBA games. I would try to get as many NBA players to meet Kim Jong Un as possible. I would flatter the hell out of him. I would seduce him with the greatness of America. Let me tell you this. The number one best option we have to combat terrorism. Do you know what it is? Most people who come to America end up loving it. You may come to America with an idea of what America is and hate it. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to immigrate here, or you're fortunate enough to get into this country, just about everybody from another country comes here and they say, my God, this place is amazing. You take anybody from Africa, anybody from a small place, a small country in Asia, anywhere where there is not a strong standard of living, and you walk them into a Best Buy in America, and you say, look at everything you can buy if you have a minimum wage job in America. Look at all of our riches. It's a great stat. Did you know people who are in the bottom 5% of American life right now in terms of wealth would be the 20% most wealthy in India right now? Think about that for a minute. Our 5% poorest people in America would be in the top 20% most wealthy in India if they were living in India right now. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Poor people in America have what? Typically they have shelter. A lot of times, even in public housing, you have a flat screen television and cable. You probably have your own phone. Nobody is going hungry. Like, what we consider to be poor, the rest of the world would consider to be rich. And so if you get Kim Jong Un over here to America and you let him do a national tour, almost like Tocqueville, and you allow Donald Trump to take him to all the great places, take him to Vegas, show him what gambling in North Korea could do. Statistically, Asian people love to gamble. Look at what happened with Macau. Take him to Washington, D.C. to go to a Washington Wizards game. Travel to wherever LeBron is, maybe down in Houston, maybe out in L.A. Let Kim Jong Un actually experience American life, and I think he would fall in love with it. I think that he would fall in love with it. So I love what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to seduce Kim Jong Un through personal diplomacy. Will it work? I don't know. But this is phenomenal. And this is, I think, take him to Spearmint Rhino, take him to the Wynn, take him around to all the best venues in American life and say, this is what capitalism is. If you want this, take him to Disney World, take him to Disneyland, have him bring his family over. That, to me, is how you seduce someone who's not familiar with what American capitalism can represent. To me, I'm very optimistic, cautiously so, but very optimistic, that Donald Trump has actually embarked on the right way to make the world safer and open up North Korea and end the isolation of that kingdom. We will see what happens. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. If you enjoy the show, share it with your friends. I love all of you. Yes, good point on Kim Jong Un. He went to school in Switzerland, so he's aware outside of what the West is like. I think he likes movies. I think he likes entertainment. Make him aware of how great America is. Make America great again, as our president has said. Make North Korea great for the first time by showing him how great America is. The Rodman interview on CNN was incredible. Go to sportsbookreview.com if you want to get the best numbers for the U.S. Open gambling coming up. Also gamble on where LeBron is going to go. Right now, he's favored to go to the Lakers. I can't get enough of watching that line movement to see on the offshores. I'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern here in Manhattan, and then we'll be live from the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills on Thursday and Friday. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Boys and girls, don't be a pussy, but sometimes be a pussy. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love y'all.